Some teams rose to the occasion while others faltered under the pressure. Let's talk about a surprisingly tame Richmond race. Like I said, it was an incredibly tame race at Richmond. There was only one natural caution, and that happened with 10 to go. And there was contact between Gragson and Suarez. Suarez was spinning. There was the caution, and there was panic for these teams and these drivers on the track, especially for Chris Buescher, who had to face off against Denny Hamlin on that final restart. If the race would have stayed green, Buescher would have clearly had the win, but with that restack for that final start, I was a little nervous for him, but Hamlin overshot one of the corners that easily gave Buescher that lead, and rightfully so, he was your winner of the Cookout 400 at Richmond Raceway. I feel like we need to have a new nickname for Chris Buescher, and part of me wants to call him Mr. Short Track because 2 of his 3 NASCAR Cup Series wins have come at short tracks. Remember, last fall it came at Bristol, this time it comes at Richmond. Also a reminder, Chris Buescher started this race in the 26th position between strategy calls from his crew chief to just raw speed that the Fords had this race, especially just RFK. It got into the lead and got him the win. Really solid job from the entire 17 team. And then we just have to talk about RFK as a whole. Brad joined this organization last year as a part team owner and a driver, and it was no secret. They struggled. When Chris Buescher won, that was, I think, a weight off of everyone's shoulders because they just did not have the year I think they were hoping for last year. But again, it was a building year. You're bringing in something new to the team. You cannot expect perfection or greatness right away. This year, though, totally flipped the script. Both drivers, before this race even started, were solidly in the playoffs on points alone. Now they're leading this race with one car confirmed into the round of 16, fighting for a championship. And I'm pretty sure just with how the points shook out, even just after this race and in general, Brad is going to be fighting for a championship as well. So a major turnaround for this organization that a few years ago just was not a winning team. Now they are, and that's a big testament to the group, the organization as a whole, buying into the new ideas that Brad has brought on. Again, it's not just Brad. Though bringing Brad into the team, I'm sure, has boosted them significantly, but it's the entire organization as a whole doing a fantastic job. So congrats to RFK. Win number 3 for Chris Buescher in his entire Cup Series career. So exciting stuff from them. Now talking about some of the drivers within the top 10. Denny Hamlin finished this race second, of course. And then we have to talk about Kyle Busch in the 3rd position, and even his teammate Austin Dillon in the 9th position. In the past few years, just RCR has not had a great short track program at all. That was a big talking point going into this race, not just from us here and above the yellow line and Toby Christie, but even just the commentators, NBC, NASCAR as a whole. And they're showing their strength finally at the short tracks with both cars, again, solidly in the top 10. So it's a testament to the changes they're making over there. So great job for RCR. Now talking about 2 drivers that struggled during the day, but were able to recover for a top 10 finish. We have Martin Truex Jr. in the 7th position. He had contact very early in the race. His strategy call was a little wonky, but it ended up working out for them very well. And then we have Joey Logano came out of nowhere, literally nowhere, to finish 4th. He was the best Penske car by far during this race. So props to those 2 teams. They fought against everything that was thrown at them to have solid top 10 days. Last but not least, to round out the top 10, we got to talk about Stewart-Haas racing, because to me, this was the best day for the organization, I guess, for my opinion, in the past 2 seasons. They were all solidly racing within the top 10. At least 3 of the 4 cars were. And even then, that 4th car, Chase Briscoe, who just was not the best of the rest for that organization, finished in the 11th position. Ryan Preece having one of the best races I've ever seen him race in his Cup Series career, finishing in that 5th position. And Eric Almirola finishing in that 8th position, fought back from a commitment line violation on pit road, which was awful for him because he literally, I feel like, had a top 3 or top 5 car. But nevertheless, consistency from SHR, it just has to be minimizing those mistakes. And I have hope that this momentum can continue to Michigan. Michigan is a Ford-dominated track, all things considered. Kevin Harvick won the race last year at Michigan, so hopefully this is good things to come for SHR, but we will just have to see. Nevertheless, though, this is a day that they should be very proud of. Awesome job for them. Not just for SHR, but Ford as a whole had a fantastic day. 6 of the top 10 cars were from the Ford camp. And like I said, SHR has the chance to have a promising day at Michigan. I always say that for the entire Ford camp. So great momentum for all of them going into the next race. However, not every team, not every organization was as lucky. Remember back in the spring, Hendrick Motorsports went 1-2 with Larson winning the race and Josh Berry finishing in that 2nd position, filling in for Chase Elliott, who was out due to injury. They were not even close to that same type of result at all. They did not bring good cars to the track, period. The highest finishing Hendrick Motorsports car was Chase Elliott in the 13th position. Bowman finished in 18th, 19th with Kyle Larson, and in 21st, William Byron. What's worse, though, is having a shot at winning the race and then kind of faltering at the very end, and that was the story for 2311 Racing. Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace had race-winning cars, dominated the first stage of the race, did very well in the second stage, and then things just fell apart very fast for that organization. And a lot of times, as they have fast cars, they come with fast cars. The drivers sometimes come with mistake-free races. Sometimes it's not, but they're not able to execute, and especially executing the entire day, and that's what ends up getting them. Wallace did recover to have a 12th place finish after the Jackman dropped the car too early on the pit stop. It lost them a lot of time. Tyler Reddick, however, finished in the 16th position after a commitment violation going to pit road very late in stage 3. So not good for that organization to end the day. I'm sure everyone is very frustrated over there. I'm frustrated because I just want them to finish out the race really well, both cars, because they could have gone 1-2 today. They could have had a Hendrick Motorsports spring type of race for that organization, but it just did not happen today, so I'm very upset. But again, Michigan, it's one of Bubba Wallace's best tracks. Tyler Reddick could pick up speed there, so we don't know, so we'll have to see going forward, but disappointed in them. And then another Toyota driver that I was pretty disappointed in today would be Ty Gibbs. He could not do anything remotely close to what his teammates were doing on the track. He kept saying he was just having issues with tire spin and other things like that. He did get stage points in both stages, which is good, but the finishing result for that team is not what they needed, especially with everything getting a little interesting around the cutoff line. We'll talk about points in a second, but that was the disappointment for me with Ty Gibbs. Of course, with Chris Buescher's win that locks him into the playoffs, he goes to 11th on that playoff grid. Drivers that gained the most points after the Richmond race were Chase Elliott with 16 and Ty Gibbs actually with 10 points gained. McDowell maintains his points gap above the cutoff line, even though he had a rough day. He had a pit road penalty for removing equipment, and he struggled to come back from that, but he actually adds to his points gap. He's now plus 18. I got to talk about AJ Allmendinger because remember, before this race, he was the first driver on the outside looking in. Before the season began, or I believe right as the season started, Kaulig had already planned for AJ to be racing at Road America with the Xfinity Series, just going trophy hunting. That was the original plan. They didn't know that AJ was going to be this close to getting into the playoffs, but they decided to keep their plan. They didn't change it, and Derek Kraus actually ended up running in that 16 car for practice and qualifying at Richmond for the Cup Series. Because of that, they had to do a driver change, so AJ had to start at the back of the pack for this race. With AJ starting at the rear of the field and track position being everything, didn't totally do the best during this race, and at the end of the race, he was caught up in a wreck on that final lap, which is unfortunate. So I don't know if him being able to practice and qualify would have changed that much. This is historically not the best track for him. So again, don't think it would have changed much, but you want to give yourself the best chance possible, especially being this close on points. He didn't lose a lot of ground. He's now minus 22 to the good as opposed to minus 17 where he was after Pocono. But every point matters. We see drivers getting out of the playoffs by only 1 point. We see drivers missing that cutoff line even in different rounds of the playoffs by only 1 point. This could be the difference for him for making it in or not making it in. However, though, we also know AJ is very good at road courses. We know he's also very good at super speedways. So the team can bank on that. But at the end of the day, let's say he gets taken out at Daytona. Let's say he has an issue with his car or something like that at the Indy road course. You're going to want to make sure that you banked on Richmond to get you a good points day. And this was not that for that 16 team. So the decision for me, a little questionable. But that's an opinion. We're gonna scale back on that. It was just an opinion. But yeah, AJ Allmendinger, not the best day, but luckily for him and his team, others around the cutoff line did not have good days either. So he was able to kind of maintain his points gap below that cutoff line. You all know, it's no secret. This is not my favorite racetrack. It's never been. And it's not against the track itself. It's just the product it produces. I don't find the races totally entertaining. So I'm just letting you know my pre-bias going into this race rating. However, I was really just surprised and I welcomed the long green flag runs that we had at this race. It's very refreshing from what we had in the spring. And with the only natural caution happening with 10 to go in this race, it allowed for strategy to play out. We saw some teams pit twice during a stage. Some teams tried to pit once during the stage. At the end of the day, we know that kind of didn't work out for a lot of those drivers who decided to take that strategy, but it was good nevertheless to see that play out. There was good racing in multiple grooves, and I think what helped with this race as opposed to the spring race is the heat. Of course, temperatures in the car getting up to like 136 degrees, maybe higher, which is just unbearable. I don't know how these drivers do it. Obviously, you got to be really hydrated. So props to them for like lasting the entire length of this race. Part of me is glad we didn't have a caution, so they were in the car for less amount of time, but it also didn't allow them to have a chance to kind of cool down. So unfortunate there. But because it was so hot outside, the track was also hot. It was a hot and slick racetrack, which usually produces some exciting racing. And I think it also helped with tire fall off a little bit more. So it kind of, I think, contributed to the fact that we saw some more intense battles for position, and especially between like positions 5 and positions number 2. There were battles for the lead, I will say, but there was more of a chance for guys that were behind the leader to get back to the lead or get to the lead. It wasn't like you were trying to fight other cars around you to just try to get around them because of dirty air. I feel like that was a little bit better during this race than what we had seen in the spring. So again, I think the changes that we're trying to make to make the short track package and even the road course package better are slowly starting to pay off. And a reminder too, in the next few days, NASCAR is going to be doing some testing at Richmond to test a new tire compound for these short tracks and for the road courses, as well as a new splitter. So we're going to see if any of these changes can help with dirty air, help just with tire fall off and things like that. So I'm excited to see what NASCAR can find from this and what they can put into the product to make it a little bit better at these types of tracks. With all of that said though, and just that information out there, I'm going to give this race a 64%. I think for me, it was a little bit better than what we saw in the spring. Definitely better than I think the Richmond races that we got last year at this track and with the package that we had. So again, slowly improving the short track package. Still some work to do. I like how this race wasn't chaotic and things were just naturally able to play out. So overall, I think it was a pretty good race. There's a lot of back and forth online as to how we felt about this Richmond race, but let me know what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. I will be at Michigan this weekend, live on the scene, reporting for TobyChristieCom and the brand above the yellow line. So if you see me, make sure to say hey, but excited to be working the race for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. So looking forward to that and all the action that we're going to get at Michigan. So to follow more of our content from that race and even just following up on the stories that come out following this race at Richmond, make sure to follow my social media pages at @_TaylorKitchen_ on TikTok and Twitter, and at Above the Yellow Line on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Threads. And of course, follow TobyChristieCom on all of our social media platforms. And check out TobyChristie.com for more great stories from the world of motorsports. We'll also be doing a live stream on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure to check that out as we preview Michigan. And I think we'll be doing a tier list during that stream. Not totally sure yet, but make sure to check it out. Join in on the fun and the conversation. But that does it from us here at Above the Old Line and TobyChristie.com this week. And until next time, I'll see ya. Bye. Want more great NASCAR content? Make sure to click the videos on the screen and click the links in the description.